Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today let's make a really fun, spooky Halloween card using lots of products from the Tim Holtz collection. So let's get started. We're going to be using this Sizzix BIGZ die from the Tim Holtz collection. And this is a steel rule die, and this one is called the Cathedral window. And with these steel rule dies, you can die cut more than one piece of paper at one time. So it will cut through several layers of paper. To start off though here, and that's what gets die cut out there, so you can see the size is very large. And we're going to start off with some gray cardstock from the Fawn Neutrals paper pack collection. So I want to center this over the die. This will be the front panel of our card. So I'm going to go ahead and position that right on the center. And then just to make sure it stays in place, I'm going to put down a little bit of purple tape here just to hold that down. So let's go ahead and run that through. I'm using my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine, so all I need are the two plates. I don't need the base plate. So I'm going to put one plate on the bottom, one plate on the top, and the steel rule die in between those two. So now I've cut out this beautiful window, and now we want to keep this piece as well. Again, this will be the front panel of our card. So let's go ahead and emboss that front panel. I'm using the Tim Holtz Sizzix Thinlits. This is the Cobblestone number 2, and this is a 3D texture fades embossing folder. So that's going to give us lots of dimension here. So I've got that panel. I'm going to go ahead and run that through. And now to do this, I like to use the platform, the embossing folder, and 2 pieces of cardboard. Now you could just stack up some cardstock here. And Spellbinders does have a new universal system that works for these 3D embossing folders as well. But I just stack up a couple of pieces of cardboard and run that through. You do want to make sure you use the directions for your specific machine. And if it's too tight, just back it out and take off a few pieces of cardstock. So now I've got some black cardstock, and you can see I've got 3 of these layered up, and that's 100-pound weight cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and run that through the die cutting machine, and you can see it easily cut all 3 pieces of this cardstock. So if you have a lot of something to make, these steel rule dies are great for that. So I've grabbed my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. I'm going to go ahead and put some adhesive all over. And I die cut 3 of those black ones, so we'll stack those up, and then we'll put that gray one on the top. And that's just to give this a little bit more dimension. So now I've got the Tim Holtz Sizzix Thinlits. This is the Trick or Treat Colorize collection. And this is from the Halloween 2022 collection. And I'm going to grab all the little pieces that create that eye. So there's a candied apple, a skull cookie, a little candy corn, and then this eye. And what you'll notice here on the back of each of these dies, it tells you what color paper to use. So it says eye-pink. So you want to die cut that one with the pink cardstock. And then this one says I-white number 1, so you want to die cut that with some white cardstock, and so on. So they're all labeled on the back here. So what I'm going to do is grab some cardstock. Again, I went to my Lawn Fawn collection, and I will list and link all of the products I'm using today down below and also on my blog. So now I've got the Tim Holtz Distress Oxide ink pad in the antique linen. And I'm going to add that just a little shadow on this portion of the eye here, just to give it, again, a little bit of a shadowing. And then I'll use the Distress Oxide in the black soot to do the same thing with this larger portion of the blue on the eye. So now let me try to show you here. You have all the markings on this first layer. It tells you exactly where all your pieces are going to go. So I'm going to start with the pink layer, and I'm going to add some Nuvo Deluxe adhesive all the way around. And I'm just using little tiny dots of it here. And then I'm going to line it up with that layer. And again, those markings will tell you exactly where to position this. And you do want to spend a little time here making sure you get this first layer on properly. Everything will kind of fall into place after this. So I've got that laid down, and I'm just going to remove any excess glue here and just check again to make sure it's lined up really well. Now let's go ahead and add the next layer, and this is the one we added a little bit of shadowing to with that antique linen. And you can use your finger to spread out that glue a little bit so that you don't have too much there. Again, I'm using that design right on the die there to know exactly where to position this. And you can see now that those little pink areas show through still, but it covers that edge of pink that was showing before. And now I realized at this point that I forgot a little piece to die cut one of the pieces of the eye. So I'm going to quickly die cut that from some white cardstock. And I'll die cut 2 of those. And I did die cut 2 of everything, obviously, to create the 2 separate eyes. And I'll add a little shadow to this piece as well. So now we can add this layer. And it was really hard to show you the detail on how I'm lining that up, but take my word for it, it's very well marked on the die, so you can easily see where you need to line these up. And then this is a little reflection for the eye. There's 2 pieces to this. Again, it's clearly marked there, and I'm going to position these down. There's this little circle as well that goes right underneath that other piece there. So now I've got the blue eye, the larger piece. I'm going to go ahead and place that down. And then there's this next layer of blue. Then we've got the black for the center of the eye. So let me give you a closer look at that, and isn't that cool? I just love that. That is just so fun. This is really my first time playing with these Colorize. I was a little bit nervous about it. I thought, oh, I don't know, this seems too complicated for me and too detailed for me. But I thought I would give it a try on a small scale. These are fairly small. Some of the Colorize sets are a lot more elaborate. So I thought, well, let me give it a try with some of these smaller items and see how I like it. And I have to say, it was really easy and quite fun to put these together. So again, I'm lining up that pink layer, then this next layer, the white portion of the eye. And that again is the piece we added a little bit of shadowing there with that Distress Oxide ink. Now we'll grab this next little piece. And certainly you could change out the color of the eyes if you want to. The back of the die does say blue, but you could certainly make it any color you want. Actually, kind of a green eye would have been kind of cool had I thought of it. So that would be fun to do, or even with some kind of glittery papers might be interesting as well. So here I'm adding those 2 little reflections. And then the blue eyes. So the larger one first, then the smaller blue piece, and then the black piece on top of that. So again, you can see how simple this is, and really easy die cutting as well, because you can use your little Sizzix sidekick machine, which makes it really quick and fun. So now we've got the 2 eyes. Let me give you a closer look at each of these. So there's a lot of dimension here. So now let's go back to this front panel of our card, and I'm going to use that black Soot Distress Oxide ink again and a small blending brush, and I'm going to go all the way around the edges. Now at this point you'll see that I did tear that little bottom section a little bit, but don't worry about that, it's fine. We're going to be adding some layers to this and you'll never even know that that was there because it is very thin down there at the bottom. But I did want to fit this onto a standard A2 size card. So in order to do that, I did have to have that bottom section. It's only about 1/8 of an inch. But again, we'll take care of that here in a second. So now I've got my layered up cathedral window and I'm adding some ink kind of inside all those little areas, those little open areas, and all around the edges of the outside of this. Just to antique it a little bit, give it more of a spooky look. So let's set those aside. Now I've got some acetate. This is clear acetate from the Lawn Fawn collection. And I've got some Lawn Fawn 1/8 inch double-sided tape. And here's where I'm going to fix that little tear. I'm just going to use that 1/8 inch tape right across the bottom. And we'll just position that in place. And then we'll add some more tape all the way around this panel. And what we'll be doing here is adding that acetate to the back of this. So that is going to give some nice substance to this frame. So we'll line that up, and I cut that to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 so it'll fit nicely right behind here. If you do have any excess hanging over, you can go ahead and trim that away with your scissors. Now this cathedral window will pop right into place. So I'm going to add some glue here. And I will spread that glue out a little bit with my finger. I don't want to get any on the acetate there. I kind of want to keep it as clean as possible. And of course, as soon as I say that, I got a little smudge of it on that acetate. But I just took a damp paper towel and wiped that away. So now I've got the 3D foam tape from iCraft. This is a nice sticky tape. And so let's go ahead and add this to the back here. I'm going to put a thin strip down at the bottom and then I'll layer up some more tape all the way around. That'll give a little dimension here. And then I've got a piece of black cardstock that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. We're going to add some distressed mica spray, and this is the brush Pewter. And you do want to make sure you shake this up really well. And I've used these mica sprays several times before. And what I'm going to do is just spritz it on. And I'm not going to be real fussy about how it goes on. If you don't press down too hard on the nozzle, you'll get some of those larger droplets. And then if you press down really hard, you'll get more of a mist. So I did a little combination of both here to get some large and small spatters here. So that's going to give this a really nice shimmer. I'm just blotting up some of that excess. I didn't want the paper to get too wet here. So I'll blot that up and then you can see that beautiful shimmer that we get. So let's go ahead and quickly heat set that. And then because that panel did get a little bit warped from being wet, I'm going to add another layer of that black cardstock right behind it just to flatten that out a little bit. And again, that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So now what I want to do is position the eyes behind that window. And I'm just going to play around with that. I did play around with this quite a while till I decided exactly where I wanted those eyes to be. And once you determine that, you can see that I did spend some time on that. Once you determine that, you can go ahead and glue those right into place. I was trying to decide which direction I wanted the pupils of the eyes to go, whether I wanted them to go up or down. So again, once I decided that, I glued those down. And then I'm just going to put something heavy on top of that to let that dry. So now let's go ahead and remove the backing from that 3D foam tape and center it on that panel. And that'll give us that really nice mica sprayed background in that window, which has a beautiful shimmer to it. So I've got some more black 100-pound cardstock, and this measures 4¼ by 11 inches. I'm scoring it at 5½ inches, and that'll be a standard A2 size top folding card. So let's go ahead and glue this panel to the front of our card. So now I'm going to grab some stickers here, and I will again list and link these down below. And these are some really great sentiments. That first one said, "Eyes fixed unwaveringly upon them." And then this other one says, "Watching and waiting." And I will add a third one to that, which will say, "A strange visitor." So what I did was I just took, they are sticker sheets, so I just taped them down or stuck them down onto some black cardstock. And I'm just going to cut them out so you have that little black trim all the way around. And I'm just using my Tim Holtz paper trimmer to do that, just leaving about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. And they don't need to be perfect because this is a spooky card, so it doesn't have to be exact. So there's my 3 little sentiments. And now I'm going to apply some glue to the back of this and stack these up a little bit more. I just decided I wanted them to be a little bit thicker. I kind of wanted it to be more like a chipboard embellishment. So I added a couple more layers of black behind each of these, just again to thicken those up. And I'll just trim off the excess there. So I did that for all 3 of these. So now let's grab the Distress Grit Paste. This is the Crypt paste, which is a really cool name. And you know, I've used this before, so you guys have seen this, but this is this really thick paste that has this really gritty texture to it, and it's kind of a gray tone. Now it goes on a little bit lighter than it dries. It dries to a darker color, a little bit more of a medium gray color when it's completely dry. So I'm going to use my little spatula here, and I'm going to just cover the bottom section of the card here, just coming up over that window just a little bit. And I'm just kind of spreading it out, and then I'll just make sure that I take any excess off the bottom there. And now I can go ahead and add this sentiment, which says "Watching and Waiting," and I'll just apply some glue to the windows here, just a little bit of glue here, and then tack that down. And then I'll just push some of that Crypt paste right up over top there, just to make it look like it's kind of like sitting in that paste a little bit. And this does take a little bit of time to dry, so we'll set that aside later on to dry. And then I'm going to add the other 2 sentiment strips. So this will say, "A strange visitor, eyes fixed unwaveringly upon them, watching and waiting." So I think that's really cool. So now let's grab the Adornment, the Halloween Adornments from Tim Holtz, and you get these little spiders and those beautiful bats as well. And then with my multi-medium matte glue, I'm going to go ahead and glue this little spider. And I want it to kind of look like it's coming up out of that Crypt paste. So I'm going to tuck that right in there. And that multi-medium matte glue will hold really well, the metal to the plastic and to the paper. Now let's grab the Tim Holtz Sizzix Thinlits, the Gatekeeper dies. And I'm just going to use those 2 larger bats from this set. But it does create that beautiful gate, and I have done a card with that gate as well. Now, what I'm going to do is die cut these bats out of some black 100-pound cardstock, and I'll die cut 3 of these. And again, I can link that video for the gate that I used down below in case you're interested in taking a look at that. And on that, I think I did use some Crypt paste on that one as well, so you might get a kick out of watching that. So let me add these 3 little bats. I'm just curling up the wings just a little bit there. And then I'm going to, now that that Crypt paste has dried just a little bit, I'm going to add a little more here. Again, to make that spider look like it's kind of crawling up from under there. So now I've got the Tim Holtz Droplets. These are, again, from the 2022 Halloween collection. And I thought I would add a little black one. That set comes with black, bronze, and a pewter color. But I thought this would make the bats look like they had a little more substance to them. So let's take a closer look at the finished card, and you can see all this detail we have. And I love that mica spray in the background there. I think it just adds to the spooky factor. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.